Hi everyone, my name is Rishabh Tarve and I'm second semester student from Function Up School of Technology. I'm pursuing my BTech in Computer Science and Engineering, specialization with Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. Till now, I have completed the tech stacks of HTML, CSS and JavaScript up to intermediate level. Also, I have covered few basic Java programming language and done few DSA problems and solved lead code problems on in Java. So in the second semester, we are learning React, and in React, we are creating few micro projects. So today I'm going to discuss a micro project that is about sign up form. So with the help of React and with the help of use state hook, we are going to see how we can create a sign up form. So what's our sign up form will consist of? So it will consist of a card format sign up form that is a heading and have few labels, and we have few input box. So whatever users enters, so let's say what are the functionality I have implemented in this. Let's say I have entered all the input boxes values. So once I enter the login button or press on the login button which I have created, it shows me a pop-up or the alert message in the web browser that welcome Rishabh. So whatever the message I have written and the username, it is showing me as an alert message. And we can say it is welcoming the user. Now talking about the console and so here you can see uh, when I refresh the page and enter the details again, let's say for a random, I have entered something. So once you enter the welcome message is again being shown to you. Inside the inspect option in the console bar, you can see that an array has been created and it is storing the values of all the labels that we have created with the values which we have provided inside our input box. So this is the requirement for our question that we have to create a array and array we have to create a sign up form, and whatever the users enter inside the sign up form will be visible to you in the console section. So that's the requirement for this micro project that we are going to create today. So let's come on to the VS Code to create this. So to create a React project in why do we use React? So we have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but to use the functionality of all those three programming languages and to uh, make the functionality of our projects more seamless and to add more functionality in a web page, we use React. So talking about how to create a new project in React, you have to write this command as npx create React app, let's say sign up form. One thing to mention here that you must use the lowercase in order to in order to give your file name. So npx, uh, here one mistake has been done. Let me rectify it. Npx create React app sign up form. So once you enter this command, the VS Code, and can understood that you want to create a new file with the name of npx create React app and the name of your file. We have already created, so it is giving us that error message. Now talking about after that command, you have to write a command that is cd change directory sign up form. Through this command code line of code, you will be transferred to this folder which we have created inside the VS Code, and after that you simply have to write npm start, and with this command uh, the local host will start the server, and whatever you write inside the React will be displayed in the web browser. Now talking about the folder structure, which the by default VS Code provides to you when you create a React app. It consists of few folders such as node modules, public SRC. Uh, Majorly, we use SRC source folder, SRC folder, where you have been given app CSS, app.css, app.js, and so on. So when you are going to create a React project, you simply start from the app.js and you will get a pre-written code inside the app.js. You simply have to clean all those codes and you have to write a code snippet, that is RFC. Talking about, let's say, let me show you RFC. It will give you a template as this one. So we are not going to use that because we have already created. Now what RFC gives you, it gives you a functional component, React functional component. Whatever you have created inside JavaScript or any other programming language functions, here the functions are called as components, and React, for major, we can say React functional component. So the first line of code which you have started with is import React from React, which is, it is importing the React library from the React. Also, talking about the basic syntax which will be provided through the code snippet RFC React functional component is export default function, the name of your file, then parenthesis and the curly braces, then a return option. So whatever you return to that web browser, also a div will be created by default. So here we are not using the div currently. Mm, so we have to create a sign-up form. To create the sign-up form, what you have to do, you have to navigate through the SRC folder, which have been by default created by the folder structure in the React. You have to drop down it and create a folder name with component. And when you will create the component folder, whatever you have to do, you have to create that file under the component folder, that is signupform.jsx. So whatever name you choose, that depends on you. I have choose the name as signupform.jsx. .jsx extension because we are implementing the features of JavaScript and XML. So that's why the JSX extension is being used. Also talking about the CSS, whenever you apply CSS to a React project, it is prescribed, or it is a method followed by web developers, that you use a different for each of the files which you are creating for the JSX. You create a styling to apply styling to that web pages. You give the name of your file, then .module.css is the prescribed name of the styling page which you are going to create. Talking about signupform.jsx, here, yeah, from the first impression, you can see we have used a use state hook in order to create the sign up form. So talking about what is the use of use state. So use state is used to store and access of the uh, access of the data from the functional component. Also, use state hooks are use state hook initialize with a default value and return two values. One of them is the uh, current state, and second is the functional state or the updated state value, functional state value talking about. So the first line of code which we have implemented here, similarly, what I have talked to you about in the app.js, that it will have pre-written code, but this folder we have created, it won't have any pre-written code. So what you have to do is you have to simply write RFC code snippet, React functional component, and the template will be provided to you. Talking about the mm, mm, first line which we have implemented here is import React and use state from React, because we are using use state hook and React library. So we have written this line of code. Talking about we also want to give styling to our sign up form. So to implement styling to our sign up form, we have to add few CSS property. To add CSS property, what we have done, we have created another file which I have told you how to name that file, and I have imported it with the name which I have given as styles, which is the prescribed form by where almost every developers to give the name of your styling page as styles, and you have to uh, by default the VS Code provides you the suggestions to import where the file is being located. Talking about the location, dot slash means you are in the current folder and the name of the file. After that, the export default function sign up form, as I've already told you that when you will write RFC code snippet, it will give you a template. So including that, it will change the name of the file with the export default function. Then how we are going to create the sign up form. To create the sign up form, what we simply going to do, leave this part. I will explain to you how we have used the use state in order to create the sign up form. Um, the next line of code that you will encounter when you will see in your RFC code snippet, that a return keyword is being used, and whatever you want to return to the web page will be here. So the div will be created. So talking about React, basically React don't allow you to return different element in the return section or don't allow you to return different HTML element. So what you have to do, you have to create an empty fragment, and under the empty fragment wrap all the HTML element which you are going to write. So this is a prescribed way to write your HTML element inside a React page or a JSX file. So after that, what we want, we simply want to create a sign up form. So what sign up form will consist of? It consists of a box, or we can say a card with a title sign up form which we have provided, then few labels and few input boxes. So now we create how we are going to create that. So under the div, we have given the name of my main div as styles.form. So whatever functionality or whatever styling we are going to give to the main container or the main total form which we have created, we are going to add functionality, add styling to that part with the help of dot form. So here you can see the destructure format is being used. So why destructure format? Because in order to give class name or any of the functionality with any of the attribute or the class name, you have to destructure it. And here we are providing styling to that part. For that, we have given the class name. So here we are using styles.form, which we have imported from the signupform.module.css. Now, to create the form, you use the form tag, we already know. So form tag has been created. Now, to give the heading of the form as sign up form, we have used the h3 tag. Now, talking about the next, we have included the whole input box and the labels under a different div, and given the name of my div as styles.input box. So the first label we have created for input box, and we have stored the value for that under the HTML4, which is the attribute. Then we have created the input box for the username and given the type as text, so the user can only enter text, and stored the value inside the. So the value attribute, what does in a input box? It simply stores the value whatever get enters. Then also we have implemented on change functionality. So the event will be called whenever on change functionality, whenever something will be changed in this, this function will be called. We will later on talk about how this is working with the help of array function which we have implemented. Similarly, we have given different divs for the password label and its input box, and stored the value inside the attribute value, and on change has been also used here. Similarly, for the phone number, we have created a label and given the input box. Also, one thing to mention here, that a phone number in Indian standards are mostly, all of them are, we know, maximum 10 length characters. So minimum and maximum length I have initialized, so minimum length I have not given, so we will rectify that. Maximum length I have entered, so user cannot enter more than 10 digits in this, and given the type as text, also value as phone number, so the value will be get fetched with the help of use state, what we're talking about. Then on change functionality, then email ID, the next input box we have created for, and the input as type as email, so the user can only enter a valid email, not any other data in that label. Talking about on change functionality, which we have implemented here, um, which all the input box or the label has been, input box has been created. At last, we have given a button with the login, and given the name of my button as login button, and given the class name as styles.login, so we can add styling functionality to that button as well. So we have created a basic layout for the sign up form. We have given the heading, we have given the labels and the input box for username, password, phone number, email ID, and given the name, class name for all those with the help of destructuring, and implemented my will implement all the styling. So now talking about a use state. So why we have used the use state hook here? Because we want to add functionality, and we want to store data, and to access data, what we simply use state. Use state by default takes value. Oh, so whatever you will provide here, we have provided empty string. So you can provide a default value. So when you will not provide any value, that default value will be used to by used. Then it returns two values. So we have stored them inside the const, and it returns an array. So one of them is a initial value, which the current youth state is, and the second is the youth state function, updated youth state function that we are going to implement. Similarly for password and phone number and email. So basically we have four labels: username, password, phone number, and email ID. So we have created four youth state, and Similarly, for the use state, we have given username and set username as the updated will get updated every time we will use the use state hook. Talking about the event which I have mentioned while explaining the input boxes, we have implemented the on change functionality and on click functionality. So the login button has on click functionality. So whenever the user clicks on click, we have passed the value as handle click as the parameter, and we have implemented the function handle click event, and this event we are passing. So whatever the event will be called here, it will get stored, and it will uh, so what we simply want through the sign up form, that alert message should be generated uh, uh, to store the alert message somewhere and to alert the user. We have used the alert functionality and given the welcome plus username which we have stored, and event.prevent default. So this line of code, what it simply does, it stops the by default functionality of the sign up form from being refreshed, or from being all the data being erased when you will click on login button. So this is stopping this functionality from the event from the login button, so we can see the data inside the console. Then talking about the user details, so we have stored some I have also shown you that we want a welcome message of the user, and also want that all the details should be printed in the console. To prevent those details in the console, what you simply, we have created an array of objects. Under the array of objects, I have given the name of my array as user details, and stored in the key value pairs inside the objects. So I have given the name of my first property as user, and the value as username, which we have stored in the HTML for a value here. Similarly, for email, phone number, and password. So all those data which will be entered by the user will get stored in this array of objects, and we have consoled that. So in we have console.log user details array, so it will get printed in the console section. Talking about the use state which we have implemented, and the two values that use state return, one of them is the use state itself, or the current state value, and the second updated set state action, or we can say the updated use state functionality which will get updated. So for all those functionality which we have implemented, we have applied the on change functionality, and what on change will simply do, uh, by using the event, we have used the arrow function, and set username will get its value and update its value every time. So on change functionality we have used, and the parameter as an event, and set username, which the use state we have implemented, it will target the value which we have stored here in the username. Similarly, for the password and the phone number and the email ID, all those functionality we have implemented using the on change functionality. Event will be called, and set username, the use state updated function will be called, and it will store the event.target.value. So dot target is used to access the value, access any of the conditions or inside the values which are being stored. The dot value, where we are storing the values for all the input boxes here. So set username will set the updated use state values in all those functionality. Talking about the styling which we have implemented, dot form is the main div which we have created. I have told you about the styling we are going to implement. So I have given few of the styling which we want, as the border and the text align center, max width 30 rem. So I have used all the styling relatively. Similarly, for the font size, border radius, and input box which we have created, given the class name as my input box, so we have also used few styling whatever we want. You can give, I have implemented all those styling inside the signup_form.module.css, and we have imported that. Now let's try to start what we have created with npm start. So this is the command which you have to write when you are going to start your React project. So now we have already been created this. Now let's start this again, so you get idea. We have closed the form which we have been using as a tutorial. Now So with the npm start command, the React will be starting on the local host. So this is the sign-up form which we have created with the styling and the use state. So given the name, password, let's say phone number, and so once the user click the alert which we have created, alert message, it's giving the username plus the welcome message. Talking about the inspect, in the console section, when you will click the login button, an array is being created. An array will store an array of objects, and the properties are user and its value is Rishabh, which we have provided, password 12345, phone number which we have entered, and the email which we have provided. So that was the micro project which we are creating. That's all for this video. Have a great day.